This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today we're going to be reviewing a very special perfume, very dear and close to my heart. We're going to be reviewing Chanel's No. 5 in the Eau de Parfum concentration. I have 200 ml bottle right here. So let me spray it on and let those top notes sizzle just for a second while I tell you that if you like my channel and you keep coming back for more but haven't yet, consider now subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. You can also push the join button next to the subscription button and become a member today and gain access to extra perks. You can also join me on Patreon, superdacob all spelled together on Patreon as well. You become a patron and you gain access to extra perks there as well. Thank you to all my patrons and members who have already pledged. This bunker would not be here without you. And also thanks to my live co-chatters and co-reviewers in the chat section next to me. This video is being filmed live in front of a virtual studio audience. Okay. 2021 is the year in which I am reviewing this fragrance. 2021, for those of you who might not know, is also the year, but 100 years back, in which Chanel No. 5 was released for the first time. 1921 was the release date of Chanel No. 5. 100 years ago. However, Chanel No. 5 was originally released in its first released form as pure perfume, or the parfum, or the extrait, the extract, and as eau de toilette. Subsequently as eau de cologne, and then there have been other iterations of it throughout the decades until 1986. Yes, it took that long, until 1986, Jacques Polge, who was back then the head perfumer, the nose behind Chanel fragrances, developed and released through Chanel No. 5, the Eau de Parfum. Now, Jacques Polge had been back then perfumer for Chanel since 1978. I wrote that down, or was it 79? No, 78. Coincidentally, the same year in which John Carpenter's Halloween was released, just one of my favorite movies of all time, also a favorite horror movie. But I digress. 1986. Why does Chanel decide to launch another concentration of Chanel No. 5? They have so many of them. Well, Chanel has this tendency of about every 10 years or so releasing a new concentration or a new flanker of Chanel No. 5 just to freshen up and pep up the name, the most sold perfume in the world. A lot of it is marketing, but they invest also millions in marketing to maintain the image of this fragrance. So is it the most sold perfume in the world? I don't know. But it definitely smells like the most sold perfume in the world. So in the 80s, it was time to revamp Chanel No. 5's image yet again. And envision the 80s. Envision this time where people were wearing shoulder pads for the gods. Every woman in a shopping center looked like she just came out of a football match. Literally, like she was the playa. Dynasty was on the air. Dallas was on the air. You know, Crystal Carrington was fighting Alexis Colby. Slapping each other silly. Weird sitcoms were on the air. People were obsessed with robots, technology, Corvettes, deliciously honeyed sunsets while you're driving in a white cabrio towards the sunset on a beach, swimming pools, sizzling notions of traveling. You know, back then you could smoke everywhere. You could smoke on a plane. You know, people were even traveling economy in a plane, you would sit down. It wasn't this cramped, tragic concept of flying economy today when you're like a sardine. You know, they would still like go with a tray pass by, serve you food. You could choose which. I mean, it was different times, different times. And within those times of opulence and golden baroque, Byzantine almost heft to visuals, that's where Chanel No. 5 is revisited. Now, the 80s were a very particular decade. The 80s were very famous for referencing every other decade from the past. The 80s had their own special way of doing the 70s. The 80s had their special way of doing the 60s. The 80s had their special way of doing the 50s, the 40s. There was a little bit of all of those past decades within the 80s done in a very light-hearted way, opulent way, imbued in gold, decadence. So now envision Chanel No. 5 amped up to sizzle in the 80s. So it doesn't come out at the beginning of the 80s. We're in the middle of the 80s, 1986. Karl Lagerfeld for Chanel dedicated a whole collection to Chanel No. 5 as the Eau de Parfum was launched. Ladies were walking on the runway with the Chanel No. 5 bottle. The 5 was on earrings, on costume jewelry. It was a celebration. Gold plaqued or gold toned costume jewelry, 24 karat. And we're talking decadence. So how does a smell translate into that era? Well, the aldehydes are amped to the max. So Chanel No. 5 is famous for being an aldehydic fragrance, but in the pure perfume, your aldehydes are going to tone themselves down after the opening. And in the pure perfume, which will forever remain my favorite concentration of Chanel No. 5, is a skin scent. It stays very close to the skin, and but it lingers on. It's delicious. The Eau de Parfum remains aldehydic forever. When you spray it on, it keeps bubbling up. It keeps soaping itself up. It keeps sparkling like that champagne that was drank, in gallons and gallons in the 80s, that opulence, that consumerism to the highest degree. This is what it smells of. Now, of course, Chanel No. 5 also has a lot of jasmine. It's borderline indolic in the Eau de Parfum concentration. So the jasmine, which is in the mid-notes, carries this fragrance together with the aldehydes, and then at the base note, patchouli. In the past, Chanel No. 5 also had oak moss. It doesn't have it anymore. Whatever it has now is synthetic. There is no traces of real oak moss left in here, but it's a patchouli jasmine bomb. It's indolic to a certain degree. Top notes. So I have here a list. Chanel is, from year to year, they become more and more restrictive in terms of releasing what notes are in their fragrances. So this one has many more notes than Chanel lists. But anyway, we got top notes: ylang ylang, neroli, aldehydes, bergamot, peach, and citrus. Middle notes: iris, jasmine, rose, lily of the valley, and May rose. Base notes: sandalwood, vanilla, vetiver, and patchouli. Number 5, Eau de Parfum, is a fuller version of Chanel No. 5. A fuller version, a more opulent version, a decadent version. And this is a quote directly from Chanel's own website. They state and quote that the Eau de Parfum is a fuller version of Chanel No. 5. The aldehydes mixed with the jasmine in this case create such a powdery, dry smell of gold, rays of sunshine. Matter of fact, this is something I don't do with almost any perfume. It is not recommended, except with Chanel No. 5. I put Chanel No. 5 in the sun. I leave it close to the window when the curtains are open. This one needs the sun to mature. A lot of people write me and say, Dacob, Chanel number 5, Eau de Parfum, it's kind of fleeting. It's not as strong as it used to be. It's never intense and strong when you first buy it. It has a very light yellow pissy color. This is how dark it turns with time. Look at this ambery color. This one was also very yellow light at the beginning. It turns so dark because you let it breathe air, you leave it in the sun, it becomes darker and heavier. The vanilla takes over that patchouli, and the jasmine becomes more indolic, and the more indolic the jasmine becomes and the darker the juice gets. And you get that old school Chanel number 5 vibe. Eau de Parfum, 80s vibe, the older the bottle gets. Now this batch code, 5702, so it's almost 10 years old now. This was one of the first batches that they released in the 200 ml spray bottle. I love this perfume so much. That dryness of the powder, it fills you up inside, but it is imbued in golden rays of sunshine. Sunset, not sunrise. It's a very mature sun. It's a sun that's fading out, but it's giving you those last rays when everything turns. It's not yellow. It's that almost brown, golden honey hue of sun as it's setting. Chanel number 5, Eau de Parfum by Jacques Polge, not Ernest Beau. Ernest Beau created the first iterations of Chanel number 5, the pure perfume, the Eau de Toilette, and the Eau de Cologne. The Eau de Parfum does wear shoulder pads, and it has had many different iterations and outfits throughout the years. I have a couple of examples here. The biggest variation or embodiment or reincarnation of Chanel number 5 Eau de Parfum we have seen it around 2018 in the edition of the red bottle. So I'm going to zoom it in here so you can see. This was a one-off. They have created in 2018, I think it was, the Eau de Parfum in red, the L'Eau, number 5 L'Eau in red, and the pure perfume in red. Now, this is the Eau de Parfum bottle, 100 ml. It was only available as 100 ml. It was the first time in history that Chanel created like a syrupy cherry or blood-colored bottle. So this is the most famous variation of Chanel number 5. You don't see the color of the liquid in it because the glass is red. But there have also been a myriad of versions. Right now, Chanel number 5 Eau de Parfum does not exist anymore in its splash bottle form. Chanel only sells it as spray. But in general, we can say that almost all perfume houses have discontinued their splash Eau de Parfums and Eau de Toilettes. You can still only find pure perfumes in splash form, if brands still produce pure perfumes, because mostly pure perfumes are also becoming a thing of the past. So, but Chanel number 5 used to have a 50 ml splash, the Eau de Parfum. It used to have a 100 ml version splash. The spray was available in 35 ml, still is, but the bottle changed for the 35 ml. 50 ml, 100 ml, and the 200 ml. Then there are travel sizes and formats. I have here an example. The packaging of Chanel number 5 Eau de Parfum, 3 times 20 ml, refillable travel size. So this is how it looks like in a gorgeous metal container. Almost like a lipstick, but it's a big one, okay? So it's a twist and spray. Pull it out, and there's the liquid inside. So this is a wonderful iteration for traveling, 20 ml. Twist it. There's the sprayer. Close it. And the cutest iteration, the newest form of Chanel number 5, was released just a year or two ago. It was supposed to be a limited edition, and I got it when it was first released, but now it's become our standard. You can always purchase it. But since this was back then a limited edition for Christmas, I got it in its little Christmas kind of snow globe pouch with the slider thing, and then you slide it open, and then inside you have the Chanel No. 5. 3 times 7 mil. In the middle here was this container. Almost like a lipstick. Actually, it is the size of a lipstick. So 7 mil compared to 20 mil. So this was the 20 mil I just showed you, and this is the 7 mil version. You can also buy refills for this. Also twist and spray in a miniature form. And you got your little tiny 7 mil inside. I almost finished my first vial. But if we compare it, this is relatively fresh batch, to how dark it gets. You can see how light yellow this is and how dark this turns. And the older Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum gets, and the darker the liquid gets. And the darker it gets, the better and deeper and more indolic it smells. And you need to be patient. All good things need time. This is like a good wine. It needs to age. So don't judge it. A lot of you are very quick to judge. You buy a perfume. Oh, it doesn't smell so intense. Why does it smell intense? Oh my God, it doesn't smell so... I'm like, calm down, breathe, and let your perfume breathe as well. Start using it. Chanel number... I don't put perfumes in the sun, but this one you can. This doesn't like humidity. Dry climate in the sun. And let it age. This one is 10 years old and it's ripe. It's so ripe and dark in its smell. And yet, by dark, I mean deep. But it has those rays of light. I can tell you, I also have in my collection a couple of factice bottles that are gorgeous. The writing was different. You know, the Eau de Parfum concentration was listed at the top, and now they shifted it to the bottom. This is much better than having it written on the top. In the past, the concentration was on the top of the sticker. There are also samples of this perfume. Throughout history, we have had 1 mil, 1.2 mil, 2 mil sprays, 4 milliliter sprays, very rare, but they did exist. 4 milliliter splash, 1.2 milliliter splash, 1 milliliter splash bottle. There is, what else is there? No, those are all the samples that they gave out. Those are the sizes of the samples. If I were to, this is really interesting. If I were to attribute a smell to Chanel No. 5, Eau de Parfum, not a smell, a movie. Like, what does Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum smell like? What movie would it be? So I'm thinking, you know, it usually takes, depending on the perfume and how fast you are and what sort of laboratories you have working on it, it can take you a month to years, decades even. I would envision this one maybe they needed 2-3 years to really work on it, tweak it the right way. So this perfume to me smells of one particular movie. It's not a famous movie by any means. It's not a movie that moves you to a way like, oh my gosh, this is such an emotional... No, it's a light-hearted horror movie filmed in the 80s, right about the time when this one was being conceived and developed. And I have it here. It's called The Night of the Comet. This is literally, they should sell them together. Night of the Comet and Chanel No. 5 go hand in hand. Night of the Comet came out in 1984, so 2 years before this one was released. So right about when this one came out when this one was being conceived. And I don't want to spoil this movie for you. This movie actually has two. It also has a reversible cover. So if we reverse it, this is the... This is the other poster for the movie. Night of the Comet. And then this is the front. So it looks a bit scary when you look at it like this. I would have made a different poster for this movie. It doesn't really describe very well what's going on. It's not this scary. The movie is actually not scary at all. And there's a scene in a perfume, at a perfume counter in a mall. Of course, this was before Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum was released, so you don't see Chanel No. 5 in that perfume counter. But you have all those perfumes from the 80s lined up in that particular short scene, and it brings back so much memories. But this particular color, a very dark, honeyed, almost brown hue of red, permeates the skyline in LA in this movie. And the air feels in the movie like Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum smells like. Those particular rays of light, the color grading of the movie, the tone, the pace of the storyline, the main characters, how they interact with each other. It's a storyline that has Night of the Comet. There's a comet and something happens, and basically almost all of humanity is gone. But some characters are still there and survive this comet. Now you would say, oof, gosh, the scenario, that's really heavy. That doesn't sound like something lighthearted and fun. And yet, just like this perfume, it has this heft to it. It's carrying this load of this heritage that is decades old, now 100 years old. And a lot of people are just afraid to even smell it because they think automatically it's so old, it has to smell of old. And this perfume carries this kind of cross on its back, on its shoulder, and it always kind of, has to deal with the fact that it has that age on its back. But at the same time, just like this movie has that really heavy burden of like humanity's almost all gone, and yet it manages to be super lighthearted. The movie is humorous. It's full of humor. And it's a wonder, you can watch it in loop. There's nothing bad about it. It's just, it lifts your spirits. So you expect something heavy and you get something enlightening. That's exactly what this perfume is too. You expect something heavy and you get something really enlightening and eye-opening and timeless. And then we get to the point of, Jacques Paul having to deal with the legacy of Chanel No. 5 and how can he reinvent it? How can he write a new chapter for Chanel No. 5 in the 80s where everything was over the top? How can he deliver a new iteration of Chanel No. 5 and make it again something that the new generation would want to buy and rediscover? I think he managed to do it by allowing No. 5 to have that lingering depth, which the other concentrations don't have. This powdery, dry, almost dusty, sandy air, almost like after a sandstorm. You have that kind of haze in the sky of almost a red type of light, brown light filtering through, and yet through the aldehydes you smell oxygen. It's so bizarre. It's so powdery dry, but it's full of air. It's oxygen. And that's what makes it so timeless. I think it's that game of depth, and you envision depth like falling into a hole and there's no air, you can't breathe, you get claustrophobic. But this one has that paradox of having that depth and at the same time, you can always breathe with your lungs full of air, constantly. There is no suffocating. Geniusly balanced. And even though it's one of the most known perfumes of the world, here's the twist. It's underestimated. It's one of the most known perfumes of the world, maybe the most known perfume in the world. And yet, for being so known, it is the most I'm going out on a limb on this one. It is the most underestimated perfume in the world at the same time. Very underestimated. You're not going to hear a lot of people living for it, dying for it, like loving it. Everybody's going to know about Chanel No. 5, but most people are going to tell you, yeah, I haven't worn it. Oh yeah, my grandma used to wear it. Oh, I never tried it. Like, oh yeah, I know it, but how does it smell like to you? Oh, I don't know. I didn't smell it. It is the most underestimated of the famous perfumes out there. That in itself is also a huge paradox, but it's true. It's a very underestimated perfume. People don't give it the minute of the day, the minute of the day, the minute of the time. I wanted to say the minute of the day, and many a times it is purchased because it's kind of like a classic type of gift to gift somebody, and then it remains sealed in its package and never used. It's very underestimated. But those who do give it a chance and start wearing it, I've never encountered one single person who actually gave the Eau de Parfum a chance and then was like, oh, boring. Oh no. This one, everybody who literally had preconceived notions about this one and then actually really tried it out, everybody was like, wow, this thing is so avant-garde. It's so abstract. It's so incredible. Because it is. And Coco Chanel herself wore No. 5 a lot. Never the Eau de Parfum. This one was created after her death. But nevertheless, this one maintains, in my opinion, and I have all the concentrations, or I have tried all the concentrations of Chanel No. 5, most of them. This one maintains the DNA of No. 5, but adds that oomph, adds that 80s shoulder pads to it. So Coco Chanel used to say about No. 5, or react to No. 5 as if it were her home. You smell No. 5 and you feel at home immediately. It makes you feel at home. And let me tell you something more. There's also a reason why Chanel No. 5 is not just sold the most during Christmas time, but it is also worn the most in that period. Because Christmas, for me personally, is a time when you're kind of forced by society to think in terms of you got to spend the time with your family. Everybody has to unite. Everybody has to be happy. Everything has to be perfect. Everybody has to have a gay old time. And not everybody does have a gay old time during Christmas. A lot of people are really alone and depressed during Christmas because they're even put under more pressure by society, telling them, bombarding them on the new television, radio, whatever. Like, this is the happy time of the year. Be happy, be happy. And, most suicides happen during that time of the year because people can't handle that pressure. Not everybody is that happy. Not everybody has that wonderful, joyous, always smiling, always ready to help and support you family, a support mechanism. Not everybody does. But Chanel No. 5, and also in its Eau de Parfum concentration, smells of home. And this is one of the reasons why I use it the most in that part of the year, because it calms me. It makes me feel safer or more capable to deal with all of those kind of social pressures of having to be happy in that part of the year and time of the year. It's not an easy time of the year. This one helps me through it because it does feel like a safe home. Even though, again, this paradox, even though it is a horror movie. Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum is a constant duality between knowing something so well that you feel like you've always known it, and yet not ever being quite able to fully grasp it. Just like Coco Chanel herself and her character, she always kept you guessing. Sometimes because she wanted to hide certain aspects of her life. Sometimes because she just didn't know any better. Pure instinct. this perfume is very instinctive. It's an abstraction of a symbology of instinct. And that instinct is very fleshed out in a myriad of layers and facets. And just like the stopper, which originally was conceived for the pure perfume, but then adopted by the Eau de Parfum, just like the stopper is cut in the shape of Place Vendôme, you can also envision the concept of a perfume being a very specific space and place and time that you inhabit once you spray the perfume on yourself. So you lift this square, La Place Vendôme, you lift it. And when you lift it, the smell of Place Vendôme is there for you, symbolically speaking. And then you spray it, and then it envelops you. It starts growing on you and living on you, and you start feeling duality. You know, an abstraction that you constantly think you're about to grasp, but you're never quite there. And the whole time you're trying to grasp it, and the whole time that it's kind of like just like hopping away from you, just 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, you're living this dream. You're feeling safe. Yeah, it's running away from you, but you're already enveloped by it. That's, again, another contrast, another weird paradox. You're enveloped by it, and yet it's running away from you. Like, how can you be enveloped by it, but not being able to grasp it? And all of this while this gorgeous honey-tinted sun with its rays is kind of caressing you, so it's warm. And if it all boils down to one notion, at the end of the day, all of this that I've been kind of explaining to you, this notion of being enveloped by something and yet having that something really being there, always running away from you, and yet you're enveloped by this warm sun that's soothing you, that's nurturing you. What is that if not home? That's exactly what home is. Home is a place you feel safe in, but at the same time it always feels out of reach just a little bit, because you can always clean, there's always something that needs to be cleaned, fixed, set, repaired, closed. You want to be left alone, but then all of a sudden the door rings because the postman is there or something. There's like this, you're safe in it, but you know that it's a spot that you cannot be forever because you have to interact with the rest of society. And there's always like something moving. There's a duality there as well. That's exactly what Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum is. I hope you like this review. If you have, thumb up this video. Let me get to the chats quickly and see what your guys' opinions are. Aisha says, this review is so beautiful. Imagine if Dacob worked incognito on a perfume counter for a day. Oh, Aisha, thank you so much. Amelia says, I prefer No. 5 in sheerer concentrations. Eau de Toilette and Eau de Cologne, that's where the magic happens. You have to envision this as an 80s version of Chanel No. 5. There is a superficiality in it, just like the 80s had that. There's that kind of going up into the shoulder pads, designed for a consumer era of the 80s, which is the opposite of the type of sophistication and approach that Chanel No. 5 had when Ernest Beau created it in the 20s. Very different times. Very different times. And yet another duality, masterfully conceived for the 80s, even though it's decades apart from its original inception. And in that respect, this one really delivers. This one smells of opulent, decadent 80s. More than the Eau de Toilette or the Eau de Cologne ever could of this perfume. Mina says, to me, the Eau de Parfum is like an 80s caricature of the original Parfum and Eau de Toilette. It's louder than all the concentrations, but it doesn't have the depth and multifaceted nuances the other concentrations have. Leave it in the sun for a year or two, and it's going to get the depth. Frau Emily says, I love old scents with history. It's so interesting. It's like time traveling. I hate it when they reformulate history. Rara says, people always scrunch noses at the thought of number 5. Yet when I watch blind rating videos, lots of men and even younger boys really like number 5 Eau de Parfum. It's always surprising. Letty says, I love the fact that perfumes behave like humans sometimes. They're moody and they all have a personality. That's the reason I think we identify with some, but not all. Um, the Eau de Parfum is it's almost like trying to, even though it's deeper smell, it tries to be simpler. It embraces happiness in a way the 80s embraced happiness. Um, Rather than embracing the sophistication of Dadaism and Cubism or what have you from the 20s and 30s, which is the original formulation. This one goes for a more simple approach with depth. Another duality, yet another duality. Dacob just said this one takes to the sun. Yes. Mr. Philip Fabulous. I guess this might explain the current number 5 campaign, them dancing on the moon, but it's all red-hued as if they were on Mars. Perhaps a comet hit Earth and we get the setting they are in. Could be. Letty says, I wish Chanel's executives knew how passionate and knowledgeable Dacob is about the brand so they can include his content in their marketing plans. Do you guys agree? Well, Letty, they probably watch and do it. They just don't want to pay it. So Would you associate California with number 5? Asks Jack. In late springtime sunsets. Yes. Number 5 reminds me of a horror movie. Only Dacob can get away with that, says Frau Emily. Not just any horror movie. A really, really cool, easygoing horror movie. And this is why it's interesting what Emilia says. This one is more shallow than the other concentrations. At first glance, this movie would appear also shallow. But it's that smoothness about it, that lightheartedness that only the 80s could ever deliver in visual form. That's what's delivered here also in perfume form. It's really good. It's really, really good that way. Debbie says, I will have to take mine out of its travel case and put it in the window. Give it a little bit of sun, Debbie. Give it a little bit of sun. Let it get dark. Let it age. Family says, Debbie, please no, perfumes hate direct sunlight. Oh, that's why Debbie mentioned before. Dacob just said this one takes to the sun. Yes, this one, the Eau de Parfum, you can put it in the sun. Don't leave it every day, all the time in the sun. Play with it. Leave it, one day in the sun, take it away. Let it live. This one gets so deep in the sun. It's incredible. Oh my God, how cute is the 7 mil? I know, it's adorable. Where is it? Oh, it's so tiny, I don't even see it. 7 mil compared to the 200 mil. I love the classic bottle design, says Frau Emily. Love having that lovely travel bottle, so elegant. And these new travel bottles are lacquered metal, just like their lipsticks. This is metal that's lacquered. They're really luxurious. Like, this is luxury. This is exactly what Coco would have envisioned. She, wanted to develop cosmetics that you use on the go. Same with perfumes, travel formats. She loved the idea of travel, of being free. not having the burden of heavy, big objects, you know, small little things that you take with you that you can always, like little amulets, like little flasks of, you know, lucky charms that you have always with you that you use when you need them. I love the aldehyde in number 5, says Mr. Philip Fabulous. And I said once they go, I'm sad, and I sad. Oh, and I am sad once they go away in the pure perfume. I think I would totally love this one. Yeah, this one is aldehyde from the opening to the bottom. And I love Chanel's jasmine too, says Mr. Philip Fabulous. Yeah, they have a great jasmine. And listen, if I were to compare it to something, and I know people say this, and a lot of people say that it's comparable, and a lot of people say it's not comparable. When it gets down to the more indolic aspect of it, and the more you leave it in the sun and the more indolic it gets, there is a certain stage in the smell of Chanel number 5 when it gets this dark that it does smell of joy, of Jean Patou's Joy. And I have reviewed Joy as well. You could check out this one on my channel as well. Card up here, and the card to the video is in the card section up here or in the description box down below. But this one smells similar to Chanel number 5 only within that jasmine indolic aspect of it, because this one is a lot about the jasmine. The Ilang Ilang is a very strong player within the pure perfume concentration of Chanel number 5. Ilang Ilang is not a power player here because there's less of that creaminess of Ilang Ilang in here, because jasmine and aldehydes take over, and the patchouli. But this one is an indolic bomb, okay? Joy is indoles to the utmost highest degree. Feces. That's how indolic it is. This one, the more it stays in the sun, the closer it gets to that indolic aspect. So they are similar in that respect. The jasmine, sometimes if it's moody, because it's just like you said in the chats, you guys, it's like a character, you know, it can get more or less moody, you know. There are days when it's in a better mood and a worse mood. It can go quite indolic sometimes, but never as much as Joy. But that's the similarity these two have between them. Amelia says, another great review, D. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you. Rara says, Dacob makes this sound so beautiful, but I hate the Eau de Parfum. But I tend to not enjoy any of the Chanel Eau de Parfums, except for Cristal. Okay, but then that's a specific thing in your nose and your perception of it that is it's very interesting. That there's something in that concentration doesn't click with you within Chanel. Letty says, Dacob, I want to get a bottle of number 5 if they release a special edition for the anniversary. Which concentration do you recommend? Eau de Parfum, Eau de Toilette, or Eau de Cologne? I recommend the pure perfume, the one that you did not list. The pure perfume. Get the pure perfume. And if you don't want the splash, they sell the pure perfume in spray bottles similar to this. This is 7 ml. The pure perfume comes in 7.5 ml. You get 0.5 ml more. And it's also refillable. I can actually show it to you. I have it here in my Ernie Sesame Street pouch. Yes, I carry my little tiny bottles in this pouch. Hold on. Okay, so this is the pure perfume. And this is 7.5 ml. And this is the Twist and Spray Mini 7 ml Eau de Parfum. This is not a twist and spray. This one has, it has its little stopper, also metal and lacquered. And then inside here we have the vial. That once it's empty, you just pull it out. So this is 7.5 ml. Let me open the other one. So here you have it. They almost look the same when you put them side by side like this, but so we got here 7 ml, and this one is 7.5 ml. Pure perfume, and Eau de Parfum. Of course, the price is it's a very expensive fragrance in pure perfume form, but magic. But I've reviewed the pure perfume, so you could check that out on my channel as well. What can I tell you about the pure perfume? Watch that video. I mean, it's just a magical delight. Very informative. May have to sample it at least, says Kira. Thank you. Gosh damn it, Dacob. Now I have to buy this one too, says Mr. Philip Fabulous. Dacob's going to put you in debt, but you will smell and look amazing, LOL, says Rara. Thank you. I'm really in debt. I bought pure perfume, eau de toilette, and Coco Eau de Parfum within a couple of months. Oh my God, that must smell divine. All thanks to Dacob, says Mr. Philip Fabulous. It is all worth it. Oh, thank you. I'm telling you, these perfumes, they're amazing. They really enrich your life. They make life better. They really do, because they just frame a moment in such a good way. Mina says, oh, I thought the 7ml is the pure perfume, but it is the Eau de Parfum. Yes, it's the Eau de Parfum, and you get it in a box of 3. This one stays here in the middle, and then on the 2 sides, you get 2 recharges. Rara says, how do you think the parfum will do in the sun, or at least out of the box on the dresser? You leave it on the dresser. Don't put it in the sun. The pure perfume, you don't want that to get deeper, heavier. The pure perfume is all about lightness. It stays close to the skin. The pure perfume is supposed to stay close to the skin. It's not a projection beast. And it's the way it blooms on the skin is just so incredible, and it can only do that if you protect it from the sun. If you leave it too much in the sun, it's gonna go stale. It's gonna go heavy, and the pure perfume, you want that thing to bubble up. So the pure perfume, don't play that game with the sun with the pure perfume. The direct sunlight is for the Eau de Parfum. Aisha says, the little 7ml is like Japanese netsuke. Beautiful little amulets worn hanging from kimono, etc. Yeah, the netsuke is actually, this is the concept of netsuke. The bottle for opium from Yves Saint Laurent, this concept was the netsuke concept. Designed by Pierre Dinant. The bottle. I have both pure perfume spray and Eau de Parfum twist and spray. Both are beautiful, says Lucas. Mr. Philip Fabulous says, Emilia says, I'm wearing Anteus today. I'm hooked, to be honest. It's so good. And Mr. Philip Fabulous answers, no perfume can match the magic and the mood of Anteus, in my opinion. Amina says, thank you for comparing the 2 little ones. You're welcome. Perfumes are life, says Aisha. Well, thank you guys so much. That's a great way to end it. Perfumes are life. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, thumb up this video and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube if you haven't already, and push the join button next to the subscription button and gain access to extra perks. One of them being listed here as my co-producer of the Fashion Bunker. Your name scrolling there. You can also join me on Patreon. superdacob all spelled together on Patreon. Patrons also get access to extra perks, such as videos that are exclusive only to Patreon and Tier 2 members on YouTube, or videos that hit Patreon before they hit YouTube, or special exclusive reruns of entire live streams that are not available on YouTube but are available only for members and patrons. So there are also extra perks like reductions for the merch store, and more things to come in the future that I cannot divulge ahead of time. Members also get access to special emojis and badges in the chats and all the comments on my channel. Now, where else could you follow me? On Instagram, I have 2 Chanel dedicated Instagram profiles. One is called Coco Chanel is in my house, dedicated to my Chanel collection of perfumes, accessories, clothes, but also everything that inspires me from what Chanel the brand is up to these days. And then there's another Instagram profile I curate called Coco Chanel is in my Coco Chanel Privé, all spelled together. Coco Chanel Privé is all about Chanel's life. It's as if she were kind of brought back to life through memory all the time. You can also follow me on superdacob on my personal Instagram profile as well. Superdacob all spelled together. Well, what can I tell you about Chanel No. 5 Eau de Parfum that hasn't been said before? And it smells like a movie I once saw and that I love to watch over and over again, from 1984. Go figure. Think about it this way. If there is such a thing as a perfume out there that is so popular, the whole world knows about it, and yet it is the most underrated at the same time, then you know you have to try it out, because there's so much tension and duality within that concept that you know it's worth at least really smelling on your own skin. So give it a go and let me know how it smells on your skin, or to your nose on your skin. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, never forget to never give up on love. See you soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.